Hello, and a warm welcome to our show, Love Athletics. In this program, we bring you the latest highlights from our sport with expert input from different continental areas. And we're delighted to have back as our guest today Cuban Canadian journalist Javier Clavelo. Hola, Javier. Lovely to see you again, and a big thank you for joining us.
Ana, muchas gracias. Delighted to be here and talk about, we say in North America, talk track and field, but athletics in general, and excited to be here a few days prior to the World Championships.
Absolutely. So, our last show was recorded over 3 weeks ago. Our production team was on a well deserved holiday, and that period was chock full of competitions, including 4 Diamond League meets. But rather than review all those events, as we're on the eve of the World Championships, we will instead do a Tokyo preview, breaking it into event categories. So here we go. Starting with the sprints. Javier, who are your top names for the men's 100 and 200?
Yes, those obviously for the title, the the fastest man in the world. Obviously, there's a lot of competition, no surprises. I'm really eager to see what the combination of Oblique Seville and Kishane Thompson can do to bring back that much coveted title and honor to Jamaica. Since the time, obviously, of the great Usain Bolt. Really, as you can see on the photo, Oblique Seville ran a very fast, maybe one of the fastest times under the rain in Lausanne, and of course with world and Olympic champion in attendance, obviously competing as well, Noah Lyles and Kishane Thompson, of course, the world leader at 9:75 from the Jamaican championships. He's been very consistent. I know he had a bit of a nickel as well, recovering, and I think these two men are poised for excellent performance. They've been to major championships. Kishane Thompson, of course, the Olympic silver medalist. Oblique Seville, very close to the podium positions in previous events. So he's really hungry to really add his name to as a global individual medalist. And so I'm excited for him. Obviously, if you can look, past this Jamaican duo, we also want to keep an eye also on Akani Simbine. Obviously, finally got his first individual medal indoors earlier this year. Akani's always been there in the mix, with very close to the medals in the 100. And of course, he was being very consistent across the Diamond League circuit. And of course, Letsila Tebogo, more so in the 200 meters as the Olympic champion over the longer distance. Obviously, very close races, primarily with, 3-time champion Noah Lyles. So it's going to be another cracker between these two men. And I'm sure there will be other folks who would like to get themselves invited to that fight for the top honors in the 200 meters. So Letsila's being obviously mostly primed to shine at the 200, less so in the 1. So I think that is going to be very interesting. And of course, for many of these folks, not necessarily for Letsila, he was still an 18-year-old kid when the Tokyo Olympic Games came around. So for many of these folks, they kind of bring that 2021 Olympic Games experience. Back then, no folks in the crowd. So certainly they really want to spice it up, and they're really in their prime, just a few 13 months after Paris. So a lot to see, Anna, for the title of the fastest man, both in the 1 and 2.
Thank you, Javier. No, I think we can't forget double reigning world champion Noah Lyles, who has the best mark of the season over 200, 19.63 set at the U.S. trials, as he stared down Kenny Bednarek, second in 19.67, and he also has a 19.74 from the Diamond League final in Zurich. Bednarek had a great early season, dominating Grand Slam track, but was third in his only Diamond League meet in Silesia. Still, with Thompson skipping the last Diamond League meets to nurse a niggle, and Tebogo honestly not in the same shape as last year, for me, Lyles Bednarek could still be a key sprint duel in Tokyo. And I'd also like to mention Jamaica's Brian Lavelle, who was very impressive on 12 August in Budapest, running 19.69, third fastest time of the year, and into a 0.4 meters per second headwind. So he's also number 3 in the 100 meters list, but he was only selected by Jamaica for the 200 meters. Let's look now at the women. So Javier, who are your top names for the women's 100 and 200?
Well, I would start certainly what a campaign has been for Melissa Jefferson Wooden, the Olympic bronze medalist, obviously the only woman running under 1070 twice. Their own trials in July, but also repeating that sub 1070 performance at the Diamond League in Silesia. So she's really on fire. Melissa, she brings that experience from the Olympic Games. A great campaign. Lovely to see her shine. And guess what? I mean, she'll be joined by 3 training partners, all coached by obviously Dennis Mitchell himself, a global medalist back in Tokyo in 1991. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of chatter about his own experience. Certainly, my heart goes to Shelly Ann Fraser-Pryce. She started her career in 2007 in Japan with the World Championships in Osaka. Obviously, 10-time world champion. She is kind of bringing her career to an end. And what a beautiful setting here to go back to Japan where it all started internationally. I'm also eager to see her fellow Jamaican, Shericka Jackson, more a redemption mode. Of course, she obviously want to erase that last memory when last time she went to Tokyo. Obviously not moving in the 200 meters, an event where she's the double defending champion. And the odds might be in her favor now with the Olympic champion Gabby Thomas not competing. Of course, there's got to be a lot of competition over the 200 meters. Shericka Jackson will be doubling in 1 and 2. And of course, our Olympic champion, Julian Alfred, she's had a very consistent campaign. Only men Melissa Jefferson Wooden won. So she's been really steady, not only in the 1, but also in the 2, with the fastest time in the world in the longer distance. So excited for Julian Alfred now as an Olympic champion, how she'll be able to really continue to add more more success to her pedigree. And especially for those women, Shericka Jackson, Julian Alfred, and also Melissa Jefferson Wooden, also selected for the 200, how there's going to be a great rivalry between these 3 athletes, more so because there's going to be an opportunity for a rematch in the double distance. So very interesting and exciting, days of competition in Tokyo when it comes to women's sprinting, primarily because, some of the top names will be doing both distances.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move now to the longest sprint, to the 400. Who are your top names among the men?
Well, I think Matthew Hudson-Smith from Great Britain, obviously, he had the Olympic gold so close when he let us slip to, at the very end. Very consistent season for him. I know he was up against a very strong American quartet, obviously in the sub 44 category. I think that's what it's going to take for any of these men to medal. And, especially they will be at their prime peaking when it matters most. For some folks, especially the American runners, to see how, they show that they can really peak when it matters most, especially, at the Diamond League final. But Matthew Hudson-Smith, he brings that experience, that composure when it comes to big races. But again, anyone coming from we have Antonio Watson, for that matter, as a defending champion for Jamaica. Rather, he's not been obviously too busy this season. But I would say more Matthew Hudson-Smith up against the American quartet.
Thank you, Javier. Now, for me, the man to beat in the 400 is Ja'Cory Patterson. After winning World Indoor Gold, he went on to chalk up Diamond League wins in Rabat, Brussels, and in the Zurich final. And he was always winning, and he won in the very competitive US trials. And another athlete I appreciated this summer is South Africa's Zakiti Nene. He was second in a very close race in Rome Diamond League and holds the world lead with 43.76 from end May in Nairobi. So he looks like a medalist to me. Now, Javier, the women's race not only sees the expected duel between Marilady Paulino and Salwa Eid Nasser, but also Sydney McLaughlin-Livroni looking for new challenges.
Yes, absolutely. What an exciting build-up for in the women's 400 meters. Of course, Paulino and Nasser they've been trading the top honors. I mean, I would say since 2021 with Paulino, the Olympic champion, of course, and two-time defending world champion over the 400 meters. Nasser, obviously, very impressive in the Diamond League final. I mean, she really didn't let up, and of course, an impressive time of 48.7. Levroni, Sigrid McLaughlin Levroni, she really wanted to try something different, especially in the start of the new Olympic cycle. Running the 100-meter hurdles, kind of working on her speed at 200. And of course, she will be very, very competitive. We're excited to see how these three women will, when they get together. So I think the American record set back in Athens in 06 is really under threat here at 48.70 by Sandra Richards. So very excited for the three women to actually meet in Tokyo. What Signe McLaughlin Levroni can do. She's also obviously a sub 49 second performer, and see how in which conditions they've been through the rounds. They understand. Obviously, they can really manage that very well. And I think it's got to be a cracker here. Maybe perhaps one of the few races ever that we ever seen three women under 49 seconds. But more importantly, whoever comes out on top is going to be a heck of a final. And of course, we have other women as well capable of being in the mix. But I believe these three have they've very consistently proven that they will be the top three for the podium in the women's four.
Thank you, Javier. Let's move now to hurdles, which often get lumped with the sprints, but which I believe deserve a separate section. So starting with 110 hurdles, who are your top names, Javier, for the men's high hurdles?
Well, this is one event where obviously the host nation, Japan, has really high hopes. And that means any hopes in the 110-meter hurdles, you have to be a sub 13 second performer, be there in the mix. I'll start with Calder Tinch. What an impressive progress by this very tall man, from leading up to obviously part of last year. But this year, he started out in May with a 12.87, obviously very close. That'll take him equal third on the world all-time list, Calder Tinch. And of course, he finished the pre-World Championship campaign with a Diamond League final victory at 12.92. So he's really in fine form. When he matters there a couple of weeks prior to the World Championships. And like I said, obviously we have Grant Holloway as a defending champion. He's not featured as much this year, but again, he's a very competitive man. You can never count him out. There will be, of course, 4 Americans in this event, but there's other names and I recognize in the mix. And like I mentioned, Japan is also well poised here to perhaps vie for one of the top medals as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Javier. So Cordell Tinch, impressive, 3 times below 13 this year. But yes, a couple names I'd like to mention. First of all, the winner of the U.S. Trials, Jacob Tharp, who was very impressive in Eugene, winning from lane 1. But also a quick mention for 2 athletes who with Tinch were the only ones who dipped under 13 this year. Francis Juste Kwao Matei ran 12.99 at the French Championships at the beginning of August after recovering from the Achilles tendon surgery last year. And Japan's Rashid Muratake, 5th at the Olympics last year, was even faster, clocking 12.92 on 16 August on home soil. So he's definitely one of the hopes for the host nation. Now let's move to the women's high hurdles. Javier, what do you see? How do you see that race?
Well, that gets even deeper. And obviously, the 110-meter hurdles has been a marquee event for the last few years. Look, we already have 2 women running sub 12:20, leading up to. Not recently, that was actually the world record. So including the Olympic champion Masai Russell at 12:17 early on in the year. And of course, she'll be joined, but great start also on the American team. Toby Abusam, the current world record holder, rather, she's coming in top form as well. With again, all these women anywhere between 12-1 and 12-2, so it's very, very, very competitive. Masai Russell, of course, very impressive campaign. And a regular performer in the international circuit, Nadine Visser from the Netherlands. She invited herself as well in that 12-20 category as well. Very consistent. It's so tiny, minor details that I can really, favor or really lead the balance in favor of one of these two athletes. And of course, I'd like to mention a couple of Jamaicans, Akira Nugent, also very consistent as well. Akira Nugent, it also in the 12-30, very seasoned athlete, obviously coming out of the Diamond League final win. And I would say, obviously, with Danielle Williams, the defending champion, also with an impressive 12-32. So she's really in the mix. And it's such a tiny difference separating when it comes to season's best that any minor tweak, element may actually, like I said, you have to be in your prime. They're all in their prime. It's just a matter of those minor tweaks, especially over there. There are 10 hurdles to negotiate. Anything can happen, and they're really going, pretty fast here. So anyone on the best day, they will be the winner, but it's very hard to determine. And it's going to be a heck of a crowd, even only to make it to the final. Anna, that's going to be already a big success for any of the athletes in the women's 100 hurdles.
Yeah, absolutely. I read that Williams had apparently declined the invitation to Tokyo, so we won't see her there. But I think Masai Russell is above the competition, but it's a hugely competitive event, and anything can happen in the hurdles. Okay, 400 hurdles now. I think for the men's race, everyone will be thinking back to that magic race at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021.
Absolutely. What a repeat in the same stadium, in the Japan National Stadium, where Carlson Walholm became the first man to run, and the only one so far, under 46 seconds in the 400 hurdles. Unheard of, unthinkable in recent history. Obviously, he knows, and that's the beauty of this sport. When you actually, athletes, it's such a competitive event that they will bring their best. And when that happens, you can see, obviously, an excellent display of performance by Walholm at the Diamond League final. Obviously, in Silesia, rather, you see that photo with 46:28, of course, one of his fastest times ever for the young region. Obviously, he's joined by the Olympic champion, of course, Ray Benjamin. The Paris 2024 Olympic champion, Ray Benjamin, obviously coming up in top form. He's also been sub 47 seconds this year. And, there's going to be what a duel. Most likely in the lane draw, we'll see how they perform in the semifinals. That's going to be very interesting how they're placed in the finals. Obviously, Walholm loves to run in the outer lanes, more lane 7. And obviously, we'll see. But it's such a... And of course, I would also like to add Alison Dos Santos himself, a world champion from 2022. Very seasoned performance, had a great early start of the year, and also, combining both the 400-meter flat as well earlier in the year. So Alison Dos Santos is also in the mix, sub 47 second performer, and I think these three men will bring their best when it matters most. Try to really go through the rounds and set the stage for another epic race, and this time around in the exact same venue, 4 years later.
Yeah, thank you, Javier. I agree. I think the big three look set to dominate the 400 hurdles, but there's another athlete I would like to mention, and that's Nigeria's Ezekiel Nathaniel, who impressed with 47.31 in Silesia behind Karsten Warholm's fabulous 46.28, and has posted 7 marks below 48 this year. Now, Javier, in the women's 400 hurdles, the event is rather diminished by Sydney McLaughlin and Livroni opting to contest the 400 flat instead in Tokyo.
Well, it is, and of course that leaves, obviously the the most consistent, no problem for Frankie Ball in her quest to defend her world title from Budapest. Frankie Ball already at sub 52 seconds here in this season. Very consistent Frankie Ball. I'm also excited to see other names as well. Primarily, very sentimental name, Dalila Mohammed, of course, who's obviously will herself a former world champion, a world record holder from Doha 2019. But Frankie Ball is poised to really dominate here as well. And we'll see, with that motivation from another global event, not only about the title that seems to be secure, but more so what kind of time she can produce. Of course, we have to go through, 3 races over maybe 5-6 days. So we'll see how that weighs into obviously her ability. This is not a one-day race, but again, a lot of these athletes do train to peak when it matters most, and this is the World Championships to end the season.
Absolutely, and Femke is also entered in the 2 relays, the 4x4 and the 4x4 mixed, so she'll have a busy time as usual. But yes, Dalila Mohammed, incredible lady. Now, she announced her retirement at the end of the season, and yet is posting her fastest times since 2021. So she's definitely a big sentimental favorite for me. So now we move to middle and long distances, 800 and 1500. Javier, who are your names in these events, starting with the men?
Well, certainly another duel here, primarily. This is not about only 2 men. There's many more, but I would say defending champion Marco Arrat. Actually, him will be joined by 3 other Canadians. So 4 Canadians in the men's 800, and of course Olympic champion Emmanuel Wanyonyi. They met a few times with Wanyonyi taking the upper hand throughout the season. It's going to be another exciting race primarily in the 800, other men as well. We'll talk about it in just a moment. Over the 1500, I have to say, Fanuel Koech, the young Kenyan with a world under 20 record from Paris. Niels Laros as well. What an impressive win for Laros at the Diamond League final with such a sprint there. So again, this is only 2 names, but so many more to mention in the 1500 meters, Anna. So it's going to be 2 exciting events to watch, and certainly we'll dwell into the women's later in the show. But again, a lot to see from these both events in the men's 800 and 1500s.
Yeah, thank you, Javier. These are really 2 very competitive events where we have new names, some Olympic medalists out of contention. So it's going to be really interesting. And I agree. I mean, Niels Laros, he was 6th in Paris last year, but this year he really jumped to another level. And he's really a very intelligent, strategic runner. So very, very dangerous, I would say. I'd like to add a couple names. First of all, in the 800, USA's 16-year-old Cooper Lutkenhaus, he showed amazing speed and strategy to place 2nd at US trials behind 2018 world champion Donovan Brazier, who completed a great return to the top after years of illness and surgery. Lutkenhaus, 142.27, world under 18 best. It's also number 2 on the all-time under 20 list, and it's currently the 6th best senior performer of 2025. And with the maturity he displayed in Eugene, I think he could medal in Tokyo. And in the 1500, I think we must mention France's Asdine Habs, who ran a fabulous 3:27.49 at the Paris Diamond League meet in July, and also won the Rome leg of the Diamond League. He was not as brilliant in the latter part of the season, but should not be forgotten, as he is also someone who delivers when it matters, as he showed at the Euro Indoors in March, where he won 2 medals, and he wasn't at the level he then showed later in the season. And of course, we have the Jakob Ingebrigtsen question. What form will the multiple world record holder and global gold medalist be in after nursing his Achilles tendon throughout the summer? Now, Jakob showed in February in Liévin that he can come straight from training and set not one, but two world records over the mile and 1500. But we will need to see how he handles rounds as he has entered in both the 1500 and the 5000.
Mhm.
Now, Javier, your names on the women's middle distances?
Of course, here we have the British duo of Keely Hutchinson. Of course, obviously, she started her season much later, the Olympic champion. What an impressive 154.74 in Silesia in mid August. And obviously, she followed that up with another impressive win a few days later in Lausanne. I would say it obviously joined as well by Georgia Hunter Bell, herself an Olympic medalist over the 1500 meters. She'll be doing both distances, and that with another personal best under 156. But I have to say, obviously, that was an impressive performance by Audrey Verreau. I saw her compete as an under 20 athlete in Cali 2022, and there she goes in front of her own crowd in Zurich. What another two brilliant performances, 156 first, and another national record when it mattered most. What a strong finish here for Audrey Verreau that will be certainly a factor judging from her campaign. So these three women certainly to look out for in the women's 800 meters. So these are my favorites, and I would say it over the 2-lap race.
Absolutely. And the event, the 800-meter women, it really got shaken up in August because it had been very quiet until Hodgkinson came back from injury. And Audrey Verreau really had a jump in quality. So it's finally become an interesting event, which is great. Now, in the women's 1500, I would bet on multiple Olympic and world champion Faith Kipyegon, who improved her own world record at the distance at the Eugene Diamond League meeting in early July. Now, the podium, there she goes. So she was really, really impressive. It's also interesting that but we'll talk about the 3000 later when we talk about long distance. Now, the podium, on the other hand, is an open matter with Ethiopia's Diribe Welteji and Birka Hailom, Australia's Jessica Hull, and the USA's Nikki Hills, all credible candidates for medals. Let's move now to long distances, 5 and 10,000. Javier, who are your top names among the women?
Well, we look at the 5,000 here, Anna. We're looking at Faith Kipyegon as well, and then we can go back to that epic race in Eugene with the Beatrice Chebet, the double Olympic champion over the 5 and 10,000 meter herself, becoming the first. She already became the first athlete to go under 29 minutes in the 10,000 meters last year. Now she broke that mystic 14-minute barrier in Eugene with 13:58. So that's impressive for Beatrice Chebet. Obviously, what a close race it was with her fellow Kenyan, Agnes Nedit, as well. Very consistent as well. Herself, obviously, that in the mix, what an epic race. We remember Gudaf Segayat as well at 14:05, the former world record holder. Gudaf, obviously, a multiple world and Olympic medalist, very capable of running anywhere fast, 1,500 meters, as we saw with 350, and of course, the marquee event in the 5,000 meters. So it's going to be very interesting, these three women, of course, with Faith Kipyegon as well. Obviously, that was part of that epic race at the 5,000 meters. So obviously, we're not looking at fast times here because they have to go through the rounds. But it's just the tactics. It's going to be very interesting over that 12 and a half lap race between maybe the four best women we've ever seen over the distance. We're looking at their times of anywhere between 13:58 and 14:05. So there's only 7 seconds separating these four women. Again, not necessarily for fast times. See how that plays out. Of course, the 10,000 meter comes on the calendar first. So we'll see primarily Beatrice Chebet aiming for the double. but certainly how that plays out in for the 5,000 primarily. Again, what a class you will be, Anna. It will be a delight. I'm a long distance runner myself, so I'm in for a nice treat.
Absolutely, Javier. And even though I also believe Cebetta is the favorite in the two long distance events, still Faith Kipyegon showed in Silesia when she ran the second fastest time in the world over 3,000 that she can also be, interesting in that race. And among the women, I believe that Italy's Nadia Battocletti can medal again, like she did over the 10,000 at the Paris Olympics after finishing just off the podium in the 5,000. So we'll see if Nadia can make it on the podium again. So let's look now at the men. Now, Javier, with Uganda's triple world champion Joshua Cheptegei and compatriot Jacob Kiplimo choosing to focus on road races, the men's 5, 10, and 10,000 are very open races.
Absolutely, Anna, and of course, we'll have a strong Kenyan and Ethiopian contingent as usual. Mohamed Ahmed from Canada himself, obviously also in the mix. I saw also Eduardo Herrera from Mexico in the 5,000 meters. Americans are very solid here, with led by Grant Fisher. So again, pretty wide open in both the 5 and 10. What I mean by that is we have more than just the traditional countries. There's going to be, obviously, Americans have becoming very solid here over these two long distances. A number of them will be doubling the 5 and the 10. So it's going to be very interesting with both Kiplimo and Cheptegei opting to go on the road, this year.
Absolutely, Javier. So, of course, Ethiopia with a very strong team, but as you mentioned, the U.S. as well. Cole Hawker won the 5,000 at the U.S. trials and was third at the 1,500. He's doubling up. Nico Young is doubling up in the 5 and 10, and also Grant Fisher. But I think we must also keep an eye on Sweden's much improved Andreas Almgren and Francis Jimmy Gressier, who was impressive in the Diamond League final in Zurich, beating Grant Fisher. So that looks really interesting. Now, Javier, what about the steeplechase, starting with the women?
Well, Anna, here, what a rivalry shaping up to be between Wilfred Yavi as well as Faith Cheretich, both running under 850. That's impressive. Very close to the world record for both of them. Yavi also, who ran a very solid 440 mile in this unusually contested steeplechase race. Again, we also have a pair of Chemutai as well from Uganda. So, but these two, I would say, Yavi and Cheretich, again, these are not races for fast times, but I suspect they will be fast as well as they negotiate, the round, primarily with two races or the World Championships. So it's going to be very interesting for both. We cannot discount, of course, Perth Chemutai of Uganda and other athletes coming from East Africa, primarily these two from Kenya, primarily. And so I would say these two will be the two to watch in the 3,000-meter steeplechase.
Yeah, I agree. They've been quite dominant. Perth Chemutai was very good at the beginning of the season. Then we didn't see her much, but I think she's dangerous, as is Kenya's US-based Doris Lemongole, who's also very competitive. So we'll see how that goes. But I agree, Yavi and Faith Cheretich seem a cut above the rest. And your names among the men, Javier?
Well, my any time in recent history, we look at the 3,000-meter steeplechase and how consistent he's been, obviously, with Sofiane Bakali, obviously a proud for all Moroccans, obviously those who reminisce of the good old days from other long-distance greats coming from that northern African country. Bakali loves to compete at home, and obviously with his best time coming from the Rabat Diamond League back in June. So obviously, not too busy season for him, but he's such a peak performer. He knows where to really choose his races, and that's primarily and I would argue probably why, because obviously there's so much leading up to the Olympic Games that a lot of these athletes, as we see with, wishing just kind of tone it down and really choose the races to big when it matters most. And that obviously, that is the World Championships. Now, we would say Sofiane Bakali is up against another solid, trio of Ethiopian as well as Kenyan athletes, but we'll also see Anna in this men's 3,000 meters, other athletes coming from the U.S., Europe, as well as Japan, really featuring. So it's not going to be an African affair. I think there's going to be a bit of a mix also for the 3 medals, but Bakali, I would say, is the man to beat, considering his pedigree over the past few years.
Yeah, thank you. So El Bakali has had a quiet season, but he always delivers when it matters most. Now, behind him in Rabat, we see Germany's Frederick Ruppert, who was a big surprise back then and confirmed he is in good shape by winning the Diamond League final. So he's also an athlete to keep an eye on, as is Kenya's Edmond Serem, the 17-year-old valiantly and single-handedly defending the glorious Kenya tradition in the event. And then, as you mentioned, Ruiji Miura of Japan, who gave Bakali a hard time at the Diamond League meet in Monaco. He was very, very close to him in that race. So let's move now to the Rhodes Marathon. Among the women, the Ethiopian team is very, very strong. Standout name is Tigst Asefa, the winner in London this year with the women-only world record of 2:15:50. She is joined by compatriots Sutume Asefa Kebede, second performer of the year with her win at the Tokyo Marathon in 2025, defending her 2024 title, but also Yalemzer Fiehwala, winner in London in 22 and third in Boston this year, and defending champion Amane Beriso. Ethiopia will be challenged by their Kenyan neighbors and rivals, spearheaded by Tokyo Olympic champion Peres Chepchirchir. Now, among the men, Kenya and Ethiopia again have very strong teams. Ethiopia's squad includes Tadesse Takele, who won the Tokyo Marathon in March in 2:03:23, second fastest time of 2025. His compatriot Derese Geleta, who placed second, while third-placed Vincent Kemoin Getich is on the Kenya team. And Uganda's reigning champion, Victor Kiplangat, will aim to defend his title. So it looks like very much an East African affair there. Let's move now to the field events, starting with the vertical jumps. So Javier, which athletes stand out for you in these events?
Well, Anna, certainly every time you look at the vertical jumps, my first name comes to mind is obviously Mono Duplantis. He also has delighted the World Championship crowd, with world records in the past, now taking his world record of 6:29 in mid-August in Budapest, obviously exact same venue where he obviously delighted the crowd, 2 years ago. This time around, he's also has obviously good company as well. It's going to be very interesting with up-and-coming Emmanuel Karalis of Greece now taking his national record to 6:08. So certainly, if you look at 6:29 and 6:08, certainly there's a difference there, but he's been very, very consistent over 6 meters. Obviously, that alone is already a baseline, a standard for world class. And I think I'm looking forward to another duel. And I think when these athletes bring their best, it only brings, obviously, that results in better performances. So I'm excited for both of them. Switching, and again, we have looking at the high jump at the pole vault. But if we're switching now to the high jump, I will go with two women who've been obviously a reference in the women's high jump. Primarily, I will start with Australia's Nicola Ollis-Lagers. Obviously, herself with beautiful victory in Zurich Diamond League final with an Oceania record at 2:04. And beautiful athlete. She loves to write, her diary, every, comments after each of her jump. A delight to watch Nicola. And of course, she will be joined by world record holder and Olympic champion Yaroslava Mahucic. Obviously, a reference for, for athletics in Ukraine, an idol. So these two athletes were certainly. There's other women also above 2 meters, but I think these two have been very consistent. And certainly Mahoshi's with her 210 last year, but that was 2024, 2025. Other Slaggers is poised to really give Mahoshi's a run for her money in her, as they both aim for the top honors in Tokyo.
Yeah, absolutely. Now horizontal jumps, and I'll start with the long jump. Among the men, Greece's reigning champion and double Olympic champion Miltadis Tedoglu has struggled to maintain top form this year, but he's an athlete who delivers when it matters most, as he showed again at the European Team Championships in Madrid in June, where he jumped the world lead of 8:46. And as well as my compatriot Mattia Furlani, who has won medals at every major event in the last 2 years, I believe we should also look at Switzerland's Simon Ehammer, who is contesting both the decathlon and long jump in Tokyo, and won the Diamond League final with 8:32 in front of a delighted home crowd. Now, among the women, the standout athlete is the USA's Olympic champion Tara Davis Woodhull, with Germany's double world champion Malaika Mihambo and Italy's Larissa Iapichino also having chances on a good day, as both have jumped over 7 meters, as has France's Hilary Kpacha. Now, let's move to the triple jump. Javier, both events have honestly been quite weak this year. Let's hope for some fireworks in Tokyo.
Yeah, but maybe they're saving best for last. I'll start with men. 3 men, all Olympic medalists, born in my native Cuba. Of course, Jordan Diaz, the Olympic champion, competing, representing Spain. Only had one competition this year, like I mentioned, for other global medalists, taking a bit of a down year or maybe settle in a bit less competition. Jordan Diaz, of course, very, an 18-meter jumper, and the second best jumper. The third best jumper of all times. But he will be up against, obviously, Andy Diaz, competing for Italy, very consistent Diamond League winner. He's been the busiest of the 3 medalists from Tokyo. And of course, Pedro Paulo Pichardo with his first global medal dating back to Moscow in 2013. And again, I have a lot of respect for longevity, primarily when it comes to the triple jump, because of how demanding this sport is on your knees and obviously on your body. So again, Pichardo also showing that he could also be in the mix for the medals one more time now as a 32-year-old athlete. Switching to women, obviously excited to see Yulimar Rojas come back to defend her title from Budapest. Obviously, she underwent surgery, missed the Olympic Games, only one competition this year. And again, it's a bit of a question mark, but again, she's just a class apart of when she was competing at her best. So regardless, it's nice to see her back and compete and obviously get back into the sport. And of course, she'll be up against primarily the world indoor champion, Leyanis Perez of Cuba. She is the Diamond League winner, the most consistent athlete, closer to the 15 meters this year. So again, these are the 2 women to watch. Of course, Thea Lafon of Dominica, the Olympic champion. But I would say, I think Leyanis Perez looking to really embrace, kind of have the double, both indoors and out, as global titles in 2025.
Absolutely, Javier. Leyanis has been very consistent, just shy of the 15-meter mark this year. And I definitely hope Yulimar is in shape and fit, because she's an outstanding athlete, but she's also such a wonderful lady. So I really hope that her comeback in Tokyo is successful. Now, on the men's side, I think we should also look out for China's Wu Ruiting, who set the Asian record and outdoor world lead in early August with 17 meters 68. So here we go now with the throws. I'll start with the shot put. Among the women, double world champion Chase Jackson has been dominant in the outdoor season, throwing 4 times over 20 meters 80, winning 3 of her 5 Diamond League meets and never finishing lower than second. But she was beaten by the Netherlands' Jessica Schilder at the Diamond League final, an athlete who made great progress this year. On the men's side, the event is wide open. Reigning champion Ryan Krauser has not competed all season as he battles injuries, but he is on the list for Tokyo. Double former world champion Joe Kovacs did not qualify at the US trials, where he placed fourth with 22.07. Imagine not being selected with 22 meters. Italy's Budapest silver medalist Leo Fabri has alternated strong performances with disappointing ones. So the event is wide open, and the US trio of Josh Awotunde, Peyton Otterdal, and Adrian Piperi will hope to repeat the USA's 2022 podium sweep. And of course, I hope Leo Fabri doesn't let them do it. So, Javier, let's look now at the long throws. Which names stand out for you?
Well, if you look at first Valerie Allman, it's a grace to watch her, the former dancer. She's really a delight, and the speed that she displayed on the circle. Obviously, at 73 meters, granted, she's not the world defending champion. She's joined by another athlete from, Lalaga Tausaga, the defending champion from Budapest, but certainly very consistent. 5 Diamond League wins, consecutive wins, 73 meters, very consistent. So Valerie Ullman is your woman to beat in the women's discus. I can think of other couple of names in the long throws. Obviously, Haruka Kitaguchi of Japan, the world and Olympic champion in the javelin. Obviously, she saved best for last in Budapest with the last throw to take her to the world title. Obviously, very consistent. And of course, she's competing on home soil. I would say that together with maybe race walking, primarily among men, that will be Japan's best chances for more secure gold medal in the women's with Haruka Kitaguchi in the women's javelin. Looking at the hammer, and of course, I have a soft spot, obviously, for the duo of Canadians. It's starting, of course, in the women's with defending another world and Olympic champion, Cameron Rogers. Obviously, what a story for her. Of course, I follow domestic athletics in Canada, and she's obviously one of the best hopes, one of the 4 global defending champions from Canada in this present in Tokyo. So excited to see her. And of course, there will be a lot of rivalry as well with the American hammer throwers, primarily for the top honors. But Cameron Rogers certainly has been very consistent over 77 meters this year. So I'm excited to see her compete once again and, bring another global medal back to Canada.
Thank you, Javier. Now, women's javelin has honestly been pretty weak this year. And I'm not convinced about Haruka. She's a lovely lady, but her performances this year has not been too great. The last 2 Diamond League meetings, she was 10th and 6th. Apparently, she's nursing an injury, but she's only 6th performer on the world lists. So I'm not convinced. Hopefully, she can up her level with the support of the home crowd. But there's only one athlete that really impressed me this year in the javelin, and that's China's 17-year-old Yan Zhiyi, who is 3rd athlete on the 2025 list with 65.89. Mm-hmm. Now, Chinese Federation has decided to send 2 more experienced, albeit weaker athletes to Tokyo and preserve Yan Zhiyi for the future, which I understand. Now, what about the men's long throws, Javier?
Well, here, obviously, the men's discus is very competitive. Obviously, a number of athletes over the 70-meter. I would certainly mention the Olympic silver medalist, Mikolas Alegna, obviously coming from a very family tradition in the men's discus. Of course, he'll have great company for the top honors as well. Very competitive event, certainly in the men's discus. I can think, obviously, looking at wall and Olympic champion also from Canada. These are Ethan Kasberg in the men's hammer. Obviously, he will also have a very competitive rivalry in the men's hammer, but certainly that's your reference. Also being consistent, but he will not necessarily, a direct line to. And of course, if you look at switching from the hammer to the javelin now, obviously very consistent season thus far for Julian Weber of Germany as well, over 91 meters. So obviously, including later in the season, and that means that he's ready to really claim the top honors in the men's javelin. But that one particularly, of course, we have athletes from, the Olympic champion as well from Pakistan. So there's going to be quite a mix there. But Weber so far kind of leading the weight according to the world list.
Yes, thank you, Javier. It's good that the federation confirmed that
Yes.
Arshad Nadim is fit after a battery of tests. So I'm really happy about that. Now, there's one other athlete who has greatly improved this year in the men's javelin, and that's Brazil's Luis Mauricio da Silva, who first stunned a star-studded field in Nairobi at the end of May, winning in a South American record of 86.34, which he marginally improved in the Paris Diamond League to 86.62, before destroying it on 24 August at the Brazilian Championships with exactly 91 meters. And he's the only athlete with Weber to pass that barrier. And of course, Arshad Nadim is now back. We'll see if Tokyo Olympic champion Neeraj Chopra can up his level. But men's javelin looks quite interesting. So, and what I love about the men's javelin is the diversity. So many countries and continents represented. It's brilliant. So let's move now to combined events. The heptathlon, for me, is all about Anna Hall, who scored a fabulous 7,032 points in Gutsis in May, before totaling 6,899 points at the US trials in early August. And after 2 injury-plagued seasons, 2025 could be the consecration for Hall. I'm really curious to see her compete and see how much she can push herself. Now, Javier, which combined events athletes would you like to mention?
Well, yes, certainly I have a soft spot for 2 Canadians, defending champion Piers Lepage and Olympic champion from Tokyo in this venue, Damian Warner. In the men, glad to see also the Americans featuring very well Carl Garland, obviously 8,800 performer from the USA trials. Of course, the Olympic champion Sander Skathame with his win in Gutsis at 8,900 points, the Olympic champion from Norway. Leo Bauer of Germany as well, Olympic silver medalist, featured very well as well in Gutsis. And I would say Katarina Johnson-Thompson from Great Britain, the defending champion. So these are obviously names that will be in the mix. So obviously, and actually both combined events will be held later in there will be the very end over the last 3 days of competition. So certainly leaving the most rounded athletes of our sport, kind of saving best for last for the conclusion of the athletics program in Tokyo 2025.
Thank you, Javier. And finally, let's move to race walks. Now, unfortunately, 2 top names will be missing in Tokyo due to injury. 2021 Olympic 20K champion Massimo Stano, who had set the world record at 35K in May, and Ecuador's Olympic 20K champion Daniel Pintado. So that's a pity. The race walks are a little diminished. But Javier, which athletes would you like to highlight?
For sure. Well, and then another great hopes here for Japan, led by the fastest man in the world over 20 kilometers, Toshikazu Yamanishi, a 1:16:10. Also another 1:17 performer of Japan, Satoshi Maruo. I think the three men from Japan and obviously the Chinese trio will be featuring there. Kaya Bonfim is himself, obviously an Olympic and world medalist as well from Brazil. Maria Perez, the Olympic champion from Spain. I think these are the names to watch, and a lot of these names will actually be doubling. Maria with her double, as you can see on the photo here from Budapest 2023. Obviously, she brings the best hopes of Spain together with triple jumper Jordan Diaz. Really a delight to watch her, and Maria Perez of Spain.
Thank you, Javier. And yes, indeed, Maria Perez could well dominate again, as she did in Budapest. Italy's Antonella Palmisano could be a strong rival. Plus, of course, Chinese athletes who are always very competitive in the race walks. So that's it for the full previews. Let's look now at some special mentions in the World Championships teams. There will be several very young athletes competing in Tokyo. We already mentioned 16-year-old Cooper Lutkenhaus in the 800, but other very young athletes include Japan's 17-year-old Rin Kubo in the 800 meters. With 1:59.52, she moved this year to number 5 in the under 18 all-time list. And then in the 200 meters, we have Australia's 17-year-old Gout, who clocked 22:02 and 22:05 regular, and a 19.84 with a 2.2 tailwind. So we'll see what Gout can do on the world stage. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we have two athletes of outstanding longevity. France's 46-year-old Mélina Robert-Michon, the 2016 Olympic silver medalist and multiple world medalist in the discus, will compete in her 11th World Championships to become the thrower with the most appearances ever. But incredibly, that's not the overall record. That belongs to Portugal's 49-year-old racewalker, João Vieira, who will be competing in the 35K race in a record 14th edition of the championships. Truly amazing athletes. Now, I like to remember another race walker, Spain's Jesus Ángel García Bragado, the 1993 50K world champion and triple silver medalist in 97, 201, and 209, who was just 3 weeks shy of his 50th birthday when he placed 8th in Doha in 2019. So I'm really amazed by these athletes.
And for sure, João Vieira was actually his translator at Doha 2019 when he won bronze at the last time the 50K were contested in Doha. Overnight. And of course, I have to actually, we're looking at European athletes, we're looking athletes from the Americas. What an impressive campaign. If you look at how demanding all these disciplines are across the sport of athletics. Another very demanding discipline is the high jump. And what a symbolic, appearance, 10th appearance for the Bahamas, Donald Thomas, himself, a world champion when the championships were last held in Japan, 2007 in Osaka, a former basketball player, look at what an impressive campaign he's had, very consistent. So at 41 years of age, Donald Thomas continues to feature to a point to be selected one more time for the World Championships. His 10th appearance as a high jumper, quite an impressive accomplishment for this Bahamian, and he continues to be a role model for his fellow islanders, not only for the Bahamas, but across the Caribbean.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on, there were several area records set in these last 3 weeks. And we normally honor all of them with a screen, but this time we'll just highlight two of the very best. Now, the first came in the Silesia leg of the Diamond League, where Faith Kipyegon ran a fabulous 8:07:04, just missing the world record held by China's Wang Jungxia with 8:06.11 since back in 1993. So really impressive. And the other notable area record came in the Diamond League finals in Zurich, where Australia's Nicola Ollislager won the high jump and improved her own continental best to 2 meters 04, also the world lead. So these are the two most impressive. And I think they set up these ladies for strong performances in Tokyo. So it's time now to go back to the global overview of our sport and check all the best results since the last show, starting with the men's senior events. Lots of excellent performances in the last 4 legs of the Diamond League, but also in other meets. Let's check them all out. So in the 100 meters, 9:87 for Kishane Thompson in Horzov, 9:87 for Oblique Seville in the rain in Lausanne, and into a 0.2 meters per second headwind. Also 9:87 for Britain's Eugene Amodazzi in London, and 9:90 behind Kishane for Noah Lyles in Horzov. In the 200 meters, Brian Lavelle 19.69 in Budapest, Noah Lyles 19.74 at the Diamond League finals, just ahead of Letsile Tebogo, 19.76. In the 400, Jacori Patterson 43.85 in Zurich, but also 44.05 in Brussels. Musala Kasamukonga back at the top with 44.11 in Budapest. That was a really fast race because as well as Patterson and Samukonga, Jareem Richards 44.14 and Caleb McRae 44.16. So 800 meters, Emmanuel Wanyonyi, who has the 3 best times this year, took the Diamond League final in 1:42.47, just ahead of Britain's Max Bergen, 1:42.42, and Canada's Marco Arop, 1:42.57. Josh Hoey was very impressive in the rain in Lausanne, 1:42.82, but having placed out of the top 3 and not having won the Diamond League finals, he's out for Tokyo. Jamel Sejati 1:42.84 in Zurich. Really interesting result from NACAC championships in the Bahamas, 1:42.87 for St. Vincent's Handel Robin, 1:42.96 for Kenya's Laban Kipkorir Chepkwani in Budapest, 1:43.15 for Brandon Miller in at the NACAC championships, and 1:43.16 for Botswana's Shepiso Masalela in Zurich. Very interesting mark in the 1,000 meters, which I had not included in the chart. That's 2 minutes 12:22 for Spain's Mohamed Attawi, which moves him to number 3 in the all-time lists. 1500, Niels Laros 3:29.20 in Zurich, ahead of Kenya's Reynold Cheruyot 29.91. Fanuel Kipkoskei Koech was 3rd in that race, 3:30.02, and Timothy Cheruyot was 4th. In Fungstadt, a week earlier, Norway's Narve Gildas Nordas, 3:30.26, and young 19-year-old Håkon Moeberg, 3:30.28. Asdin Habs in Zurich, 3:30.39. Niels Laros in Brussels, 3:30.58. Anas Essayi of Morocco, 3:30.67 in Zurich. And Yared Nuguse, another US athlete who didn't make the team at the championships and who didn't manage to win the Diamond League final. 110 hurdles, we've already mentioned 1992 for Rashid Muratake. Cordell Tinch, 12.92 at the final in Zurich and 12.98 in Lausanne. In the rain, it wasn't raining as hard as it was later. Also 13.03 into a 0.5 headwind in Horzów. Another Japanese athlete, 13.12, Tatsuki Abe, and Enrique Llopis of Spain, also 3.12. 400-meter hurdles, Karsten Warholm was mega impressive in Horzów, fastest time outside the Olympic final of 2021. He also ran an excellent 46.70 at the DL final in Zurich. Ezekiel Nathaniel, I've already mentioned 47.31 in Horzów, and Abderrahman Samba just 0.03 of a second behind Ezekiel Nathaniel. The Qatari Abderrahman Samba also ran 47.45 in Zurich, placing second, where Ezekiel Nathaniel was third in 47.56. And CJ Allen, 48 flat. Pole vault, of course, a world record of 6 meters 29 by Mondo Duplantis in Budapest, also 6 meters 10 in Horzów, then 6:02 for Emmanuel Caralis in Budapest, and also in Lausanne under steady drizzle. 6 meters for both Emmanuel Caralis in Horzów and Mondo and Caralis in Zurich. Shot put, Joe Kovacs had a fantastic end of the season, 22.46 in Zurich, 22.33 in Budapest, but that wasn't enough to get him into the championships, even though he won the Diamond League final, because world champion Ryan Krauser has the wild card in that event. 22.28 for Peyton Otterdal in Horzów, 22.10 for Leo Fabri in Horzów, 22.07 for Peyton Otterdal at the finals, 22.04 for Joe Kovacs in Lausanne, Rajendra Campbell, 21.87 in Zurich, and Adrian Piperi, 21.84 in Zurich, and Joe Kovacs, 21.82 in Horzów. In the discus, really interesting marks in Ramona, so with very favorable wins from Jamaica's Ralph Ford Mullings, 72 meters 01, and also 72.17 for Olympic champion Roger Stona, who will not be in Tokyo, as he is one of the athletes who is in the process of switching nationality to Turkey. Also in Brussels, Ralford Mullings, 69.66 meters. In the hammer throw, Bence Halas of Hungary, excellent performance at home in Budapest with 83 meters 18, ahead of Ethan Katzberg, 81.88. Bence Halas confirmed in Horzów with 81 meters 77. In the javelin, we've already mentioned the 91 meters 51 by Julian Weber at the Diamond League final. And in the half marathon, Jacob Kiplimo will not be in Tokyo, but at the Buenos Aires half marathon on 24 August, he clocked the third best time of the season, 58.29. So best men's performances of the last 3 weeks, Mondo Duplantis, 1,347 points. That's how much his 6.29 meters world record is worth. Then 2 marks by Karsten Warholm. 46.28 in Horzów is worth 1,322, and his time in the Zurich final is worth exactly 1,300 points. Then 6.10 for Mondo Duplantis in Horzów, 1,294, and Emanuel Karalis 6.02. That's worth 1,272. And of course, he did that twice, both in Budapest and in Lausanne. Discus throw, Ralford Mullings in Ramona, that's worth 1,282 points. Rashid Muratake, 12.92, and Cordell Tinch with the same time. Those are worth 1,270, while Joe Kovacs winning mark in Zurich, 22.46, is worth 1,268. So, top marks of the season is now tied. Mikolas Alekna with his world record from April, and Mondo Duplantis with his latest pole vault world record. So both worth 1,347 points. So let's check now the best women's marks of the last 3 weeks. So Melissa Jefferson has been really impressive, 12.66 in Horzów, then 12.76 in Brussels. Julian Alfred, 12.76 to win the Diamond League final. And interestingly, an athlete who's performed very well, Tia Clayton, 10.82 in Horzów and 10.84 in Zurich, but she's not on the Jamaican team. Her twin sister, Tina, is in the 100 meters. 400 meters, Salwa Eid Nasser, impressive in Zurich with 48.70. Marilady Paulino had managed to edge her out in Horzów with 49.18, but she was second in Zurich with 49.23. Salwa Eid Nasser, 49.27 in Horzów. And the 800, as we saw, great improvements in August. 154.74 for Keely Hodgkinson in Horzów and 55.69 in Lausanne. Audrey Werro also 155.91 to win the Diamond League final, just ahead of Hunter Bell, 155.96, and Werro had run 156.29 just a few days earlier at the national championships. Now, Horzów was interesting because while Faith Kipyegon was running the 3,000, Gudaf Segai was running the 1,500, and she finished in 3:50.62 for an excellent mark ahead of Beatrice Chebet with 3:54.73. Nikki Hills in Brussels, 3:55.94. Georgia Hunter Bell in Horzów, 3:56 flat. Nikki Hills just behind her in Horzów, 3:56.10. Lyndon Hall has had two very good performances, 3:56.33 in Brussels and 56.39 in Horzów. Under 20 athlete Birke Heilom, 3:56.79 in Horzów. Nelly Chepchirchir, she caught a fading Jessica Hull on the line at the Zurich Diamond League final to win in 3:56.99 with 3:57.02 for Jess Hull. 3,000 meters, we mentioned Faith Kipyegon, 8:07.04. 5,000 meters, Agnes Jebeten-Getic in Brussels, 14:24.99. 300 meter steeplechase, Faith Cherotic, 8:57.24 to win the Diamond League final. 100 hurdles, Masai Russell continued her excellent season in Horzów, 12.19. Tonea Marshall, 12.24 in Horzów. Tobia Musan, 12.25 behind her In Horzów, Nadine Visser, third there with 12.28. Akera Nugent winning the Diamond League final in 12.30, and Daniel Williams 12.31 in Horzów. Alia Armstrong 12.32 also in Horzów. That was an amazing race. 12.34 for Akera Nugent there. Masai Russell in the heats in Horzów 12.36. Ditaji Kambunji placing second at the Diamond League final with 12.40. Megan Tapper in the heats in Horzów 12.41, as same time as Kendra Harrison in the final. Nadine Visser 12.43 into a 0.4 headwind in Budapest, and 12.43 also for Danielle Williams in the heats in Horzów with a 6.5 headwind, and Akera Nugent in the final. 400 hurdles, excellent mark of 51.91 by Femke Bol in Horzów. This is all about Femke. 52.18 in Zurich and 52.24 in Budapest. But also interesting in Zurich, improvement in national record for Czech Republic's 50 Emma Zapletalova with 53.18. High jump, we mentioned the 2 meters 04 area record by Nikola Olislagers, and in that final, Jaroslava Mahuchik was second with 2 meters 02. Shot put, Chase Jackson, an excellent 20.90 meters in Brussels. Discus throw at the Zurich final, 69.18 for Valerie Allman. So best performances for the period from 12 August to 3 September among the women. The best of the best is the 3,000 meters mark by Faith Kipyegon, worth 1,290 points. Then also in Horzów, as we said, Gudaf Segai going on the shorter distance. That is worth 1,282. Melissa Jefferson Wooden also in Horzów, 10.66 on the 100 meters is worth 1,275. Femke Bol's 3 marks are all in the top 8. So 1,271 points for her performance in Horzów, 1,263 for her 52.18 in Zurich, and 1,261 points for her 52.24 in Budapest. And in the 100 hurdles, 12.19 for Masai Russell is worth 1,262, and Ollie Slagers 2 meters 04 is worth 1,259 points and completes the top 8. Best women's performance of the year remains the area record by Valerie Allman, 73 meters 52 in Ramona, which is worth a huge 1,321 points. So there have been several good performances over the past weeks by under 20 and under 18 athletes, but we'll review these age groups after Tokyo. So let's look now at upcoming events as we reach the end of our show. And it's all about the World Championships. So 13 to 21 September, the eyes of the world will be focused on Tokyo. So we're now at the end of our program. It was great having Javier with us on the show.
Thank you, Anna. The 20th World Championships. Thank you so much for this opportunity, for the conversation. And we look forward to another exciting end of the season, this time with our, the World Championships in the Japanese capital. Thank you again for the invitation.
In a few days, thank you, Javier. Thank you all for watching. In a few days, we'll be heading to Tokyo, and we'll post interviews from Japan, starting with the pre-event press conferences, and then mixed zone interviews once the competition starts. We'll record the next full Love Athletics program after Tokyo, and I already look forward to reviewing the worlds and look together at the highlights, comments, and analysis of what will be happening in our sport over the past 2 weeks. Take care, everyone. Thank you. All eyes on Tokyo.
Wow.